This presentation is brought to you by Arizona State University's Julianne Wrigley Global Institute of Sustainability and a generous investment by Julianne Wrigley.
The problem is that energy is very useful and people want to raise their standard of living, including places like India and China, and they have every right to do that. We in the United States burned more than a quarter. We're responsible for more than a quarter of the increase in CO2 in the atmosphere. And Europe is responsible for more than a quarter. China for 10%, even though China is now the biggest emitter. India for 3%. So if you look at it on a per capita basis, then those countries are more than an order of magnitude less responsible than the West. So we have a moral obligation to help them figure out how they're going to get this energy and raise their standard of living without using fossil fuels and dumping the results in the atmosphere. So the problem is that the fossil fuels do not include the cost to society. The effect, the air pollution and water pollution, even if you just included that, the health effects of that, it would raise the price of the fossil fuels significantly. And the climate effects are going to add the biggest cost, but those are free. These fossil fuel companies are able to use the atmosphere as a free dump for their waste. So I argue that the way to do this, to solve the problem, is to collect a fee from the fossil fuel companies. Collect it at the source, at the domestic mine or the port of entry. That's very easy. There are only a small number of sources. And that money should be given to the public, given equal amount to each legal resident of the country. That way the person who does better than average in limiting their fossil fuel use will make money. And it's a big incentive for them to pay attention to their carbon footprint. And it's a big incentive for entrepreneurs to develop clean energies and energy efficiency. And as that fee rises over time, you can phase down fossil fuel use. If it's $10 a ton and goes up $10 each year, at the end of 10 years, it's $100 a ton, and that's $1 a gallon on gasoline. So the public isn't going to let that happen if you're giving the money to the government to make the government bigger. You've got to give the money to the public. And I've talked with conservatives and liberals, and they both like this idea. You know, Barbara Boxer likes it and Bernie Sanders. So they said, oh, they introduced a bill. We'll do this fee and dividend, but we're only going to give 60% of the money to the public. They want the other 40% for their social programs. But if you do that, then most people are losing money, are going to be paying more in increased prices than they get in their dividend. And you know, I've talked with Grover Norquist. And you know, the smart conservatives know that if they continue to pretend that climate change is a hoax, that it will come back to bite them big time. And the Democrats will then get to impose regulations and add taxes and everything that conservatives fear. So what do the conservatives, they say, yeah, we should have a carbon tax, and we will reduce some of these other nasty taxes. Certain taxes they don't like, but that isn't going to work, because then the public, they'll see the price of gasoline going up, and they won't allow that to continue to go up. So neither one of them. That's why I'm beginning to say we have to have a third party. But there's another possible solution I'll get to. Anyway, that's you know, for example, I say $1 a gallon, but by that time, right now, our fossil fuel use at $100 a ton is $600 billion per year. That's a hell of a lot of money. But what the economic studies show, that if you had that fee, by the end of 10 years, emissions would be 30% less. And so the dividend, so if it was $60 $600 billion, that's $2,000 for every legal resident. But actually it'll be 1,500 because the emissions, the use will go down 30%. And in the process, the economic studies show this spurs the economy. It actually increases GNP and it creates several million new jobs. So there's no cost to it if you do it gradually. If you suddenly did this, it would cause some economic disruption. But if you do it gradually, there's no problem.
This presentation is brought to you by Arizona State University's Julianne Wrigley Global Institute of Sustainability for educational and non-commercial use only.